Good evening. President Bongbong Marcos is urging Congress to swiftly enact the proposed 6.7 trillion peso national budget for 2026. In the president's budget message on Wednesday, August 13, Marcos says the government is on track with its agenda for prosperity. While he says the country has recovered from the pandemic, Marcos says the government recognizes that there is still much to rebuild. The president emphasizes that the government must focus on its collective responsibility to ensure a brighter future for all Filipinos. He then urges Congress to pass the budget quickly to achieve the administration's goals. The Department of Budget and Management on Wednesday formally submitted the National Expenditure Program for 2026 to the House of Representatives and the Senate. The lion's share of the proposed budget is allocated to the Department of Education with 928.5 billion pesos. Public Works follows at 881.3 billion pesos, and then Health at 320.5 billion pesos. The Department of Budget and Management says the proposed budget for 2026 will see a lower allocation for confidential and intelligence funds. In a press conference on Wednesday, August 13, Budget Secretary Amena Pangandaman says the DBM proposed 10.7 billion pesos in total confidential and intelligence allocations for 2026. This is 11% lower than last year's 12.1 billion pesos. A breakdown of the proposed 2026 confidential funds shows that the Office of the President will be receiving the lion's share with 4.5 billion pesos. The Office of the President's allocation dwarfs even that of the National Intelligence Coordinating Agency, which will get 1.1 billion pesos. According to Pangandaman, the Department of National Defense will be getting 1.8 billion pesos in confidential and intelligence funds. The Anti-Money Laundering Council, the National Security Council, and the Philippine National Police will be sharing 2.2 billion pesos among themselves. House Appropriations Chair Micaela Swansing says their priority for the 2026 budget is to ensure that secret funds go only to agencies allowed to have confidential and intelligence funds. Civil watchdogs have long criticized the opaque nature of confidential and intelligence funds. These lump sum allocations are typically exempt from standard auditing procedures, supposedly to safeguard national security and law enforcement. Vice President Sara Duterte allegedly misused over 600 million pesos in confidential funds allocated to the Office of the Vice President and the Department of Education. A Chinese fighter jet tailed a Philippine Coast Guard aircraft over Scarborough Shoal, coming dangerously close to the Philippine aircraft. PCG spokesperson for the West Philippine Sea, Commodore J. Tariela, says a People's Liberation Army Navy Air Force J-15 fighter jet intercepted the PCG's Cessna Cagayan. The Chinese fighter jet intercepted the Philippine aircraft during a maritime domain awareness flight on Wednesday, August 13, at about 200 feet above the waters of Scarborough Shoal. According to Tariela, the Chinese fighter jet performed dangerous maneuvers for 20 minutes. Tariela adds that he did not want to speculate whether the fighter jet's aggressive actions were a direct response to Monday's accidental collision between two Chinese vessels in this area. The Maritime Domain Awareness flight was partly conducted to track the whereabouts of the China Coast Guard vessel damaged in the earlier collision. While chasing a PCG ship on Monday, August 11, China Coast Guard 3104 collided with Chinese Navy warship 164 off Scarborough Shoal. The China Coast Guard ship was pursuing the PCG's BRP Suluan, which was escorting other vessels on a mission to assist Filipino fisherfolk near the shoal. Scarborough Shoal lies within the Philippines' 220-kilometer exclusive economic zone. China continues to reject the 2016 arbitral ruling that declared the shoal a traditional fishing ground for the Philippines, Beijing, and Vietnam. The Philippine Coast Guard says two U.S. Navy warships were deployed off Scarborough Shoal following the collision of Chinese ships in the area. PCG spokesperson for the West Philippine Sea, Commodore J. Tariela, says USS Higgins and USS Cincinnati were monitored 30 nautical miles away from Scarborough Shoal on Wednesday, August 13. Tariela says U.S. ships were exercising navigational rights and freedoms in the West Philippine Sea in accordance with international law. Earlier, the People's Liberation Army Southern Theater Command said it mobilized the forces to monitor, issue warnings, and expel the destroyer USS Higgins. On August 11, China Coast Guard 3104 chased BRP Suluan and performed a risky maneuver. This led to a collision between the China Coast Guard ship and a Chinese Navy warship. Both Chinese ships sustained damage, with the China Coast Guard ships forecasted being badly crushed. BRP Suluan managed to evade the maneuver. China pushes what experts call an exclusion zone enforcement in Scarborough Shoal, but the 2016 arbitral ruling declared the shoal a traditional fishing ground for the Philippines, China, and Vietnam. Scarborough Shoal lies within the Philippines' 220-kilometer exclusive economic zone. Discounted beep cards for students, persons with disabilities, and senior citizens will be available at the MRT and LRT lines starting September. Students, PWDs, and senior citizens are entitled to a 50% discount at the MRT3, LRT1, and LRT2. In an interview on Wednesday, August 13, Transportation Secretary Vince Dizon explains that the discount will already be programmed into the special beep cards. He says there is no longer a need to fill out forms to avail of the discount. According to Dizon, students just need to present their IDs at any station to have their beep cards printed. He says beep cards for students must be renewed every school year.
Kung ikaw ay estudyante, starting September, pupunta ka sa kahit anong station in September, papakita mo ang iyong ID at right then and there, ipiprint ang iyong student beep card in every station sa MRT 3, LRT1, and LRT2.
So one time.
One time. I-renew mo lang yan after every school year.
Dizon adds that PWDs and senior citizens also need to present their IDs to avail of the discounted beep cards. But PWD and senior citizen beep cards don't need to be renewed. He says every station on the MRT and LRT lines will have a dedicated window for printing these cards. And these are the stories you need to know today. I'm Neil Mercado. Follow INQUIRER.net on Facebook, X, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Reddit. For more stories, visit INQUIRER.net. Good evening.